Okay, let's get started here. So thanks everyone for joining. Hope you had no trouble getting into the meeting today. There's been a lot of talk on the news about Zoom and its security options. I'm not too worried about it, but just don't accept any weird invites to your Zoom meetings. Thanks for filling out the poll here. It looks like we're right in between 3 and 4 with 40% right in the middle. 4 doing better than that. So let's get going. I'm going to end the polling. Sure, I'll share results. Close that down. So, hey, get out of here. There we go. So, let's get started. Office meeting. How do I get through this? Market activity. How's everyone finding the market? Besides the obvious. Good, bad, and the ugly. Any input? Anyone putting through deals? Anyone have any action out there? I was talking to my mom yesterday. She's in South Australia, Rock. She says she's busier than she's ever been.
Do we usually talk or we just chat?
Whatever you want, Kyla.
Oh, okay.
Keith's busy. Naz, slow. One and only Manny Baines, you have a client in quarantine. Well, that does you no good, does it? If you want to talk, you can raise your hand. I try to keep it that way so that we don't have a bunch of people talking over each other. So if you want to raise your hand, talk about the market, let me know. If not, type it in. Zip 0 nothing. Scott Bancroft, Deborah Levong, very slow. And then you mute me. Well, Kyla, if you want to talk, raise your hand, just like elementary school. Kyla, unmuted. Go for it.
I have 2 new listings. I was pretty slow with them. And then all of a sudden I had 2 showings for both of them on Saturday, and I'm hoping to get at least 1 offer, if not 2, for the little condo in Newton.
Well, I hope they go through for you. I really, really, really do.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 new listings. That's pretty good. Benny invited me to a meeting. No, I don't want to do that. Ollie, slower, yes. Obviously, some people are finding it much slower. Some people are finding it business as usual. It really depends on your client base, and I don't know the rhyme or reason to it myself. But yeah. We have order of the, whoa, did I go too far there? Market activity, there we go. Tenanted properties and possession. I know that many of you are going to be dealing with this very soon. The Solicitor General has just come down with his decisions regarding tenancies. It looks like any notices to end tenancy that have been served before March 30th, they will still stand. However, it also looks like the tenant can deny access to the unit if they so choose. We better have a good relationship with tenants, or we will need to take the property off the market. Thank you, Asia. Is anyone dealing with a tenanted property right now and potentially a closing coming up with a tenanted property? For some reason, the government did not think, oh, Kyla's got her hand. Good girl, Kyla. Lower your hand and unmute you. Okay, Kyla.
So we were dealing with one. It was an off-market listing. We had it listed last year, and a realtor came to us wanting to, get in and whatnot. Originally, the tenants didn't want to let us in, but I talked to the seller about the protocols that I would take, and that made them feel comfortable, so we were able to get in.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, we weren't able to get together on a price point, so unfortunately, that deal's not going through. But then the seller was thinking about putting it on the market, and with all this tenant stuff, I just told him to hold off.
Yeah, it might be the best deal. I did hear on the news today. I'm not sure if anyone else heard that, but it does look like we are flattening the curve. Morning, Tony. So I think is the best positive news we've heard in a couple weeks now is that there's no new cases to report today. The social distancing does seem to work. And what's her name? Dr. Bonnie? Is that her name? I feel horrible for not knowing that right now because she's such a hero to BC. Bonnie Henry, thank you. That woman definitely needs a long vacation after this when it's all over. So despite section, I'm not going to go through all that, Residential Tenancy Act, another section of the Residential Tenancy Act, the Residential Tenancy Regulation or any term of a tenancy agreement, a landlord must not give the tenant a notice to end tenancy during the period that this order is in effect. Monica Lee Trudeau mentioned in a few months more. Well, unfortunately, British Columbia is doing well. We are flattening the curve, but I think Ontario is having not as much luck out there, and I believe Quebec is in a. Chris has no sound. 1 second here, everyone. Chris, you might have to just turn your speakers up on your computer. If not, if you go to the participations button, you can go over to your what is it over here? Your computer audio, and it should be able to kick in. If not, Chris, I'll have to send this off to you after. Asia Glover is going to be my tech support here. If he has no sound, come on, Asia, don't leave us hanging. Type faster. Oh, good call. I don't. I'm not going to hold everyone up to help one. Sorry. Thanks, Asia. If a landlord gave a tenant notice to end the tenancy under sections blah 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 of the Residence Tenancy Act before the date of this order, the notice to end tenancy remains in effect, subject to the dispute resolution process. So we're not going to go through all this, but this is something you need to send to a lawyer in regards to this, or have your buyer and seller prepared to extend the completion date in order to work with this order. I'm not going to go read all this through with you. Long story short, if there is a tenancy situation, please bring it up to me or Susie, and we're going to have to send it off to a lawyer and deal with this and potentially extend the completion and possession dates, obviously. If a landlord gave her a notice, and this is all before March 30th, if anything happened after March 30th, that's when you're going to have the issues. Online activity. Bit of good news in here. Ollie asked, curious, does this only apply to a real estate transaction or to any tenancy notice? This applies to any tenancy notice, Ollie. So if anyone was given a notice to end tenancy after March 30th, it will not take effect until this situation is done. I don't know why they've included this with owner use of property when you're trying to somewhat keep an economy moving along. We all know that real estate does create what's the average $60,000 after every transaction. It would have made sense to not include this because it's just detrimental to real estate. But we'll have to roll with this with the lawyers and make the best of it. Oh, sorry. Paolo. I see I'm not on par today. I actually have a little bit of a cold today myself, so sorry if I'm a little slower than usual, as Asia was kind enough to point out to me there. User volumes on real estate, our REW's platform rose week on week for the first time since social distancing measures were implemented in Canada, up 11% in the last week of March when compared to the week prior. This represents a good recovery, but it also indicates a stabilizing trend in the real estate demands on REW. When compared to the traffic seen on the site the month before, you'll notice that the user volume is only 17% below that in February and well ahead of the gap we saw early in March. This is shared by Tony, by the way, so thank you, Tony, for sharing this. The bounce rate. Okay, the bounce rate is when somebody comes to your website and then immediately bounces out. If any of you are into your websites and follow this stuff, this is when a user searches angelaparada.com, comes to that website, then immediately bounces away. They leave the website. So the bounce rate is also remarkably low, much lower than it has been historically. This means that the users coming to REW are spending more time browsing properties rather than viewing a single listing. It's a positive indicator for the actual demand that is sitting dormant in the market right now. So I think that the general consensus that I've talked to everyone out there, if I've had any private conversations with you, is that when all this is over, this market's going to get very, very, very busy, I believe, because there's been a massive dam built on top of what looked like a very strong to the 2020 market starting. Monica Lee asked, curious, people doing business right now, are the clients ones that need to sell by, or were they planning on listing in spring market and decide to move forward? Anybody want to answer that from Monica here? One of each. Need only from Rebecca. it should be mostly the people who are in a high demand right now to buy and sell. Yeah, calling culprits. The tire kickers should, for the most part, be out of there. And I think if you look at here, the tire kickers are probably spending a lot of time on the websites right now. You have this extra time in your life during quarantine and self-isolation. So people most likely are just spending a lot more time on the internet, browsing, looking at properties, instead of the hustle and bustle of regular life when they jump on at 8 p.m. and search for an hour before they go to bed. Now they're probably spending a lot more of their day searching the internet for properties, and will probably educate themselves and be ready to go when this is over. I truly, truly, truly think that when this self-isolation period is over, and it will be over, we will get through this, the market will recover, and we will be, I think, busier than we've ever been before in a very busy market from pent-up demand. Listing today's market. This is one of the questions asked by our realtors. What are people saying to their sellers today to potentially entice them to list their home now, or is everyone pushing them off? But if you are taking on a listing, what are you telling them in regards to why should you list right now? If you want to raise your hand and talk about this, we appreciate it, or just write it in. The question is, Scott, listing today's market, what are you telling your people who have listed to have them list today? Are you telling them it's a good time to list in today's market and what we're dealing with? Chris, I have 6 groups looking to buy and sell, only 1 continuing now, others waiting on the return to normal. This is for the previous question. Okay, thank you, Chris. With tenanted properties, I tell the seller to hold. Yeah. It depends on if your buyer has a place to go or not. That's really what matters. If your buyer has are currently tenants, then they could hold off and wait this thing out with the other tenants they'd have to move into. So someone called me about this, and they explained that they were dealing with a tenanted property, but the buyers were actually tenants as well. So they had all the time in the world as long as they didn't give their 30-day notice to extend their completion possession dates as needed. Akis is trying to push them off for the short term unless there is a need, retiring, work contract ending, etc. That makes sense. My leads have chosen to wait, except one I listed. I've not had any showing requests. In my honest opinion on this, and you can agree or disagree with this, I think that many people are going to listen to the Premier's request to stay in until roughly April 15th. And then I think we're going to see people slowly start to try to get on with life a bit if we have flattened the curve, obviously with a lot of precautions in place still. But I do believe that people at one point do need to get out there and start making some money, some people. Scott has a flipper that's finishing in 2 weeks. He needs to sell vacant property. Well, vacant properties should be nice and easy to sell when the buyers start to emerge again, and I do think they're going to. It's just a matter of time and holding out with them. Okay, property health disclosure forms. These have all been updated. I do want to get through this quickly, so I do get to Bill Cadman sooner than later here. Has anyone not seen these forms? So I don't need to cover them all again with everyone if everyone's seen them. On the forms. Are they on web forms? No, these have been emailed out to you from Sandra and Lisa. Because it's not going to be a legally distinct form, Kyla. There is nowhere to sign. It's just buyer prospect, please print name. Okay, so they are on ROP web forms as well. Thank you, Seema. Sure. This isn't going to be a legal defining document. This is just, once again, precautions to show that you've done your due diligence in regards to COVID-19 and property showings. We are an essential service. So we're just more or less, through the help of Roy LePage Corporate and Canada, doing our best to ensure that we are taking the precautions we need to take. It's like a blanket for showings. seller consent, release, and indemnity. I think Bill Cadman can weigh in on this. Bill, what do you think about all these forms? Are they going to help anyone ever? I've unmuted you, Bill.
I haven't read through them, but I mean, I think that the key is that, and I'm not sure if this is a purchaser's form or a vendor's form, but I think the key is that a vendor who lists their property has to be made known that the obvious that, you know, the virus, that there's a risk when someone comes into your house that the coronavirus can come with them, and that they accept that risk. And then I think, you know, you would let them know that you're taking steps to make inquiries with purchasers that they don't have symptoms and they're not been exposed, etc. And I think also that you would want to get an undertaking from your listing people that anybody that's residing in the property is symptom free and not under quarantine. And let you know immediately if something were to arise.
So it's a blanket then, right? It's to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and exactly. Going through everything, right? So
yeah.
Where are you now, Bill? Gonna mute you again, but we're gonna get you on here back in a second. Yeah, a good checklist for yourself, in my opinion. It's calm and knowledge, more of a feel good for seller than legal. I'm certainly not as smart as Bill, but that's what I would say too, Colin. If you don't know what's really happening in the world right now, I don't know how that's possible. But you know, it's just something we need to put out there to protect you, to make sure we are doing the proper steps in carrying on with business. More roll the page, COVID-19 update, BCRA resources, which federal aid is right for you if you are looking for federal aid. Manny just sent me the list if anyone saw it. If anyone is going to apply for the aid, the government just shared what your birth date is, and that's the day you should be applying. I wonder if I can get that up here. No, I can't really. We'll share it with you after just to make sure. But if you are going to go for some sort of federal aid, then this will apply to you. I guess money will start pouring out today or Thursday, one of these days coming up. Are you self-employed? If you're a self-employed realtor without additional sources of salaried income and you have stopped working because of COVID-19 impacts, you are eligible for CERB. COVID-19 impacts include loss of job or income, illness, and quarantine, providing care to an individual. It's birth months. Thank you, Terry. Yes. You must also reside in Canada, be over the age of 15. From Ben to everyone, should we be adding to the Schedule A regarding seller accepting risks? I think it's all going to be covered, Ben, by that form that we included, the indemnity. You can just put it in with your multiple listings contract. That'd be fine. But I don't think adding to the Schedule A would help. I would keep the form separate and keep it clean. Have stopped working because of a COVID, have received income of at least $5,000 in 2019 or in 12 months prior to the date. B are expected to be without employment or self-employment income for at least 14 consecutive days in the initial 4-week period. Oh boy. I'm not going to go through all this. We can read it, but have you incorporated as a personal real estate corporation? Many of you are, and received a wage from your PREC. If you have incorporated as a PREC and received a wage from your PREC, the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy Program may be worth pursuing, particularly if you have seen a drop in your income but not a complete halt. Okay. You can, well, I'm just trying to get to the point with Bill here, Jimmy, and then we're going to jump you right on there. So maybe, okay, Bill has to go, so I'm just going to jump Bill on here right now. Bill, you're on the line?
Yeah, I'm good for until 1:45, 10 to, so
well, let's not rush you through. Do you have any comments or anything you want to add into?
Well, I guess, you know, no, not particularly. I think what I was just going to say is just an update about, you know, what's happening from our area about witnessing people's signatures, etc. Things are changing, but not changing dramatically. So now, basically, if it's an affidavit that we're going to file in a land title in support of an application, we don't have to witness the people's signature. We can do it online, take screenshots of their ID, etc. But the Form A transfer and the Form B mortgage still have to be signed in person. And, you know, to keep social distancing, we can sign separate pieces of paper, but I still have to watch them sign. The way that we're going to be able to get around it if as we speak right now, and that may change again next week, and they may make things easier, but right now, if someone was to be quarantined when they were going to be selling or buying the property, we would be able to do the video conference or a telephone conference to be able to explain what was in the documents, etc. And then we would need to get an affidavit from somebody that's familiar with the person that's their signature that's on the document, and that the reason that they didn't sign it was because they were quarantined or because they weren't coming out in public or whatever the situation is. So the person doesn't have to attend at our office, but we need to have somebody that knows them attend at our office for the purpose of signing that affidavit.
It's good to know, Bill. Yep. Does anyone have any questions for Bill while we kind of have him on the Zoom here? It's Monday morning, so let's go easy on him. How many? Oh, can this person be the realtor, Bill?
Yes, it can be.
Okay. See, we are essential, Naz. No matter what, we are essential. Bill, what if they are from out of country?
I mean, if the seller or buyer is out of the country,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, the affidavit would still work.
Okay. How are you seeing business? Are you still seeing a lot of deals processing through your office?
It's hard to say right now. It's just the beginning of the month. As I said, last month it started off slow and built through the month, and we ended up having sort of similar numbers that we would have had in 2019, which wasn't crazy busy, but it was still like more than you would have thought in a Corvid kind of a market.
Yeah.
The jury's still out, so it's the first week of April right now. So we'll see how the month fills from now to the end.
Yeah, we're still seeing pre-COVID-19 stuff coming in here, right? So.
Yeah. So, but the deals that we'll be seeing, like I think right now, if you threw a number, I'd say we have 30 deals for the month on the board, and the question will be, will it fill with another 20 to make it a reasonable month?
Okay, good to know. So yeah, they're coming from Dubai, Marie says, her out-of-country people. So is this an actual deal you're dealing with right now, Marie? I would assume so.
The big issue is not going to be from Dubai. The big issue is not going to be to sign the document. The big issue is going to be identification. So if they can't appear before a lawyer here, they're going to have to go to a lawyer in Dubai and have their ID taken by the lawyer or a lawyer there as the agent for the lawyer in BC. So it's all this ID and money laundering is going to cause the issue. The actual witnessing of the Form A transfer is easy, but the reality is if they have to go to the lawyer in Dubai for identification, then the lawyer in Dubai probably can sign the transfer on their behalf.
Sale, April 23rd.
Am I muted? No? There you go. Thank you, Bill. Looks like you had some business there for a second. Any other questions for Bill? No, we're good?
Well, thanks everyone. Stay healthy, and hope we're back to normal soon.
Thank you, Bill. It's always appreciated when you come on. We'll talk to you next Monday probably too, Bill.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay. No, thanks, Bill. Yeah, that's right. Bill is the best. So now let's talk to good old Jimmy, who is also the best and a wizard at numbers. So, Jimmy, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, and I think you just unmuted me. Thank you very much.
Yes, I did. Oh, yeah, next Monday is Easter, so we won't be having a meeting that day. We'll do it on Tuesday. Why not? So sorry, Jimmy, just so everyone knows, we will do our meeting on Tuesday, not next Monday, and everyone can, hopefully think about something else and have a nice quarantine dinner with the family. So, Jimmy, you're on. Tax breaks. I think this is Scott needs to check his schedule. He might be busy next Tuesday, so let's see. What do you want to talk about, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit today about some of the tax relief measures for individuals as well as for businesses, and not simply just covering what's already been announced, but more towards leaning on what we can do to ensure that we qualify. There's still a lot of subjectivityness to this whole thing, so as we go through some of the qualifying criteria, the government has not released, what their interpretation of things, like, for example, what does must have stopped working really mean, right? So some of these qualifying criteria are subject to some interpretation. And if you're on the aggressive side of tax planning, I would say we can do whatever we can to ensure that you meet that qualifying criteria. But if you're on the more conservative side of tax planning, you might consider, some of the tax planning measures to be against the spirit of the qualifying criteria, for example, and therefore you might disqualify yourself per se, right? But I'll leave that for everybody's own judgment as to whether or not they qualify or not. But I do plan on talking about those today. James, am I able to share my screen, or can I just share my screen with you guys?
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
You do have a question already here, though, Jimmy. You have.
Okay. Is there a break for PREC tax and GST installments? Yes, I will cover that. It's
Okay.
on my handout. I'd love to throw my handout onto the screen, and I just tried. And James, it says I cannot share my screen while the other participant is sharing. So I think you have to unshare your screen. Or I did email my handout to Sandra.
Let's see if we go through. Is this it here?
That
James, go to the next slide. There you go.
Yeah,
Sandra's always organized. She's the brains of the operation. We talked about this last week. So.
Okay, fantastic. So participants, if you haven't already received it in your own email, bug Sandra about it. She'll get it to you. But I am going to speak specifically to that handout today. So in terms of filing deadlines, I just want to make sure that we all heard that the filing deadline has been extended to June 1st. But if you are participating in this phone call today and you are a sole proprietorship realtor, your deadline is still June the 15th. So that doesn't change for you, okay? If you are a PREC and you pay yourself by way of payroll or dividends and you no longer have any sole proprietorship income because you're a PREC realtor, then your deadline is now June the 1st, okay? If you have taxes owing, those taxes are now owing for your personal tax return on August the 31st. So if you don't pay by August the 31st, interest will start to accrue on September the 1st. And let's get into the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. That would be the benefit that everybody's probably been hearing a lot about. That's the $500 a week benefit that goes on for 16 weeks. And that's the one that has, it was on James' screen earlier with respect to some of the qualifying criteria. A lot of them are relatively easy to understand. Like, for example, you gotta be at least a resident of Canada for income tax purposes. And you gotta be at least 15 years old. I mean, I think that's pretty easy to understand. You also have to have stopped working because of this virus and that you have not voluntarily quit your job. So for those of us who are sole proprietors, I don't think we ever really stop working even in this environment. We're still working. We just might not be earning an income. So that's where I have some trouble with saying conclusively that sole proprietorship realtors would qualify, because what does the government mean when they say you have stopped working? If you're still talking to your clients, if you're still arranging, virtual tours, if you're working on your business to beef up your marketing, whatever, does that still mean that you are still working? I don't know the answer to that, and that's really what I have trouble with in terms of the qualifying criteria. The third bullet point on the government's website is you must have had at least $5,000 of income in 2019 or in the 12-month period prior to your application. Now, that's really easy to qualify for. Most of us would have at least $5,000 of income, be either by way of dividends or payroll or whatever. So, that's you should be able to qualify there. And then, of course, the last little bit here is if you are expected to be without employment or self-employment income. So this speaks to, I guess, the sole proprietorship realtors with respect to the self-employment income in the last 14 days during the 4-week period for this application. And then for subsequent periods, you have no employment income or no self-employment income. So my interpretation of that is that if you are a PREC, you are not paying yourself payroll and you are not paying yourself dividends. So in theory, technically, you have no income. You might have income at the PREC level, but unless that income flows to you personally, I would interpret that as no income for you, okay? For sole proprietorship realtors, if you are not receiving any commission income from the brokerage, then that means you have no self-employment income as well. So I think that is a lot easier to understand than the second bullet point where the Canada government says you have to have stopped working. Okay. So if you meet that eligibility criteria, then you're good for $500 a week. You do need to apply for that through your CRA My account. If you don't have a CRA My account, there's a separate there's a telephone number that you can call. It's an automated service. I suppose you probably just, press 1, press 2 if this, and that. And then you can apply that way. If you don't already have a CRA My account, don't bother trying to get one right now, because the process of getting a CRA My account requires the CRA to mail you a security code by snail mail, which you then have to enter into the security verification protocols of the CRA My account before your account is fully activated. So if you don't already have one, I honestly don't think you'll be able to get one in time for applying for the CERB. So you'll just have to call that number, okay? Now I see some questions popping up, so I'm not exactly sure if James, you want me to address these questions as they come up, or maybe you can.
No, you fire away if you want. There's only 2 there. There's from Rebecca and Monica. So if you just want to jump on them, jump on it.
So for Rebecca's question is, what if you're paying yourself dividends? Well, dividends is investment income under the Income Tax Act. So the qualifying criteria is you are not earning employment income or you're not earning self-employment income. So if you're earning investment income, then if you were to look at, I guess, the technical definition, dividends is investment income, not employment income, and it's not self-employment income either. But if you really want to be safe, I would say just don't pay yourself any payroll or dividends from your PREC. The third way that you can pay yourself from your PREC is to take a draw. And a draw for accounting and tax purposes is neither payroll or investment income. So I'm not even exactly sure what the government of Canada would consider draws from your PREC to be in respect of the qualifying criteria for the CERB, okay? The next question is, what is the phone number? Oh, and I see somebody already posted up the phone number. Thank you very much. I also wanted to point out that there are actually 2 phone numbers. So on that same website where you probably got that phone number, there's a second phone number as well. So you can definitely call the other number. And I also wanted to point out that the automated phone system is available from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just wanted to also say too that if you are likely to call in the early morning or the very, very late evening, I'm pretty sure that the call volumes are significantly less than during the regular time of the day, and you'll probably have a much greater success of getting onto that automated system. And as speaking of getting on, even if you already have a CRA My account, I also tried to get on just for fun to see if I would be able to get on, and the website is down, so it's crashed. There's just way too many people trying. I'm not surprised, of course. But again, a good rule of thumb is if you're going to try to apply through the CRA My account website, then do so late in the evening, early in the morning. And if you also wondering when the CRA My account website is open, it generally is open usually at about 6 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, and closes at midnight your local time. So 3 a.m. Vancouver time would be a great time if you're up and you got nothing else to do, okay? So that's what I have to say about the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. In terms of relief for businesses, there are 2 wage subsidy programs. there is the 75% wage subsidy program, and then there's the 10% wage subsidy program. So obviously the biggest difference is the amount of subsidy that you're going to get. But there are finer details that deserve to be mentioned as well. So under the 75% wage subsidy program, it is a rebate style program. So you pay the payroll, you apply for the rebate, and you get your rebate after. That also means, unfortunately, that if you ultimately are not eligible for the rebate, you would have also already paid the payroll. Now, if the payroll is to yourself, of course, then that doesn't really matter. But if you are paying payroll to arm's length staff that you normally would not have paid because you don't have the revenues or whatever the case may be, then if you've already paid them, then of course, you know, you're not going to recall that payment from your staff, despite if you are ultimately not eligible for the 75% wage subsidy program. So before you hire back on your staff, or before you decide to keep your staff, you might want to look at the qualifying criteria. One of the biggest qualifying criteria is that your business must have had a 30% or more reduction in the revenues for the same reference period last year. So the reference period is this month in 2020 compared to last month in 2019. So March 2020 compared to March 2019, April 2020 compared to April 2019. If in 2020 you have a 30% reduction or more in your gross revenues, then you get the 75% wage subsidy for any employees that you pay. There are limitations to the wage subsidy. It's $847 per week, but there are conditions to that. So you can't artificially inflate the payroll to either your employees or to yourself, because the 75% limit is based on the lower of actual wages paid or the wages prior to this coronavirus pandemic. Okay. Yes, that would be the primary issues with respect to the 75% wage subsidy program, is that it's a much tougher criteria to meet. Okay, if you don't qualify for the 75% wage subsidy, then there is a 10% wage subsidy program. And the 10% wage subsidy program does not require you to apply for it. You would automatically be eligible if you have payroll. There are some other qualifying criteria as well, although when I looked at it, it didn't seem to be very onerous, okay? The limits, of course, is 10%, and there's also a per employee limit that is much lower than the 75% wage subsidy. So the 10% benefit is up to $1,375 per employee or $25,000 per employer. The primary difference with this particular subsidy, though, is that you would deduct your subsidy against the payroll remittance that you would normally have sent into the Canada Revenue Agency by the 15th of the following month that the payroll is paid. So there is a manual calculation that you have to do so that you can determine what your subsidy is. And then you have to modify your payroll remittance to account for or deduct that subsidy from what you would otherwise send to the Canada Revenue Agency in respect of the 10% wage subsidy program, okay? I'd also like to point out that if you are eligible for the 10% wage subsidy program, you definitely can get it. If you're also simultaneously eligible for the 75% wage subsidy program, the two programs do not stack on top of each other. So in other words, you're not going to get an 85% wage subsidy if you qualify for both. But what you will get, though, is you will get 75%. So there's nothing wrong with taking the 10% up front. And then when you make the application for the 75% wage subsidy, you will need to account for the fact that you already got a 10%, so that by the time you add the two benefits together, you're still capped at the 75% maximum wage subsidy. Okay. I see that there's no questions about that, so I'll continue on.
You did have one from Brian Lamb.
Oh, did I miss one? Oh, yeah. Okay, firm deals being paid out now. What is your recommendation, PREC or not? Okay, so are we talking then, Brian, with respect to the Canada Emergency Response Benefit? I suppose that's probably what you're talking about. Okay, I'm going to go and answer based on a couple of assumptions. Brian, if you're talking about the Canada Emergency Response Benefit and you are a sole proprietorship, then as a sole proprietorship realtor, if you are receiving commissions that are paid out on deals that were done prior, then reading the criteria here, which says you are expected to be without employment or self-employment income for subsequent reporting periods, then if you are receiving commissions from the brokerage, then you are receiving self-employment income as a sole proprietorship realtor, okay? If you are a PREC, if you get paid commissions, those commissions go to your PREC, which is a separate legal entity. So if you stop the commission there and you don't pay yourself as a realtor, as an individual working in your PREC, you don't pay yourself by way of payroll, you don't pay yourself by way of dividends, then in my view, you haven't earned any income, right? And nor have you earned any self-employment income, because that income was earned by your PREC, okay? But let's also not forget that one of the qualifying criteria for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit is that you would have also have had to have stopped working in order to qualify. And as I had mentioned earlier in the call, what does it mean when stopped working? I don't have an answer for that. That's going to be subject to interpretation, okay? I hope that answers your question. And then Monica says here, you had one deal April 2nd. Where does that leave you? Monica, did that deal, so that deal paid out on April the 2nd, I'm assuming. And if you are a sole proprietorship realtor, then I guess that would mean that you earned income on April the 2nd. So that would qualify with respect to self-employment income. And in my view, in my interpretation is that would constitute self-employment income and disqualify you from the CERB on the fourth qualifying criteria, okay? All right, let's, I don't see any other questions that I might have missed. Oh, is the relief benefit taxable? Yes, as far as I know, it is taxable. I've not heard anything conclusive with respect to the benefit not being taxable, okay? All right, no other deals to come. So if you have no other deals to come, Monica, then you would qualify in a subsequent period. Remember, this is $500 a week. So I would have to think that the government is looking at this on a weekly qualifying benefit. So if you have income on April 2nd, you might be disqualified for that week, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be disqualified for subsequent weeks if you don't have any other income in subsequent weeks. So do apply and do find out, because my gut feeling is it is looked at on a week-to-week basis.
Questions are blowing up now.
Know? I don't know how to answer that one, Brian. I don't think the CRA would know in terms of how much work you've done or work is being done. If you're talking about the qualifying criteria with respect to you must have had stopped working, I don't think the CRA, I mean, truthfully, unless they're going to show up at your doorstep or something and monitor you somehow, I don't really think they are going to find out whether you really have stopped working. And then I am a PREC. So Naz, you're a PREC and you've paid yourself in March. Can you still apply? Well, if you've paid yourself in March, then I guess you would be disqualified for the March 15 to March 31st period. But there are subsequent periods for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. So if you stop paying yourself, then presumably you would qualify for subsequent periods if you also qualify on the other criteria as well. How do they confirm that you did make a commission on April the 2nd? Well, I guess there's paperwork with respect to what's being paid out of the brokerage, and your bank account will show money coming into your bank account. So I guess under secondary audit, you know, they could probably quite easily look this up. But speaking of audits, at this point in time, my gut feeling is that the government is more interested in getting money out to taxpayers. So they're not really going to be auditing or qualifying you at the time of application. I think very well that you'll just self-report and you'll get your money. But under secondary audit, I would have to think that the government will endeavor to secondary audit on a random basis and then claw back these benefits if they were paid out erroneously. What about online marketing, prospecting? Does that count as working? Kyle, your guess is as good as mine. The government has not rolled out any sort of guidelines with respect to what they consider to be stopped working. Brian, you're shut in your house, and let's face it, we're still working. Yes, I know, Brian. I totally understand where you're coming from, but you know, the government hasn't rolled out what their guidelines are with respect to what does it mean to stop working. Yeah, and Rebecca, I fully agree with you. I think realtors and a lot of self-employed people are going to be hit very hard. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to the Canada Emergency Business Account. So the Canada Emergency Business Account is definitely eligible for corporations. I have not heard anything specific with respect to disqualifying sole proprietorships. The qualifying criteria is that your business would have had $50,000 of payroll expenses in 2019 as reported on a 2019 T4 summary for your business number, okay? And the benefit here is that your business then would be eligible for a $40,000 loan, interest-free, no principal repayments until December 31st, 2022. If by December 31st, 2022, you pay back 75% of what you've borrowed, then on December 31st, 2022, the government will forgive the remaining 25% as a non-repayable balance owing, okay? I would have to think that, of course, whatever you are forgiven will become taxable income. So it's not like we're going to get this as a non-taxable benefit, okay? And how you apply for the Canada Emergency Business Account is through your financial institution. So what I've heard so far is that the financial institutions eligible to roll out this program would be, of course, your chartered banks like RBC, Scotiabank, BMO, etc. But that also the larger credit unions would also be eligible. So credit unions like Van City would be able to roll this program out to you. I haven't heard anything about the smaller credit unions. So I don't know if the smaller credit unions will be eligible to roll this loan out to you, okay? Now, in terms of tax planning, I know that there's a lot of PRECs out there who have December 31st, 2019 year ends. I know that for myself personally, I've got a lot of PRECs with December 31st, 19 year ends, and we have purposely not finished those year ends yet because I wanted to have a chat with those clients with respect to, do you want to do payroll where we normally might not have done payroll? There is, of course, a cost to payroll. You have to pay CPP premiums on it, of course, and CPP premiums at a rate of 5.1% on the minimum $50,000 of payroll. If you look at CPP on both the employer side and the employee side, you're going to create a CPP expense of roughly $4,800, okay? If you have a cost of $4,800, but you're still able to get a $10,000 forgiveness of a loan, then I guess you would be ahead by $5,200, okay? So if you don't normally do payroll, you normally do dividends, for example, and therefore if you've done dividends, you don't qualify because you don't have $50,000 of payroll expenses, then you might want to consider doing payroll for 2019, pay the CPP premiums, go get yourself the Canada Emergency Business Account loan of 40 grand, pay back 75% of it before the deadline is December 31st, 2022, and net yourself up to a forgiveness of $10,000. That in turn will net you a benefit of $5,200. Sounds like a little bit of work for $5,200, but $5,200 isn't small change either. So, you know, if I was in a position where I don't normally have payroll, I probably would consider doing this. To me, it would seem to be worth the trouble to net a $5,200 benefit, okay? Okay, going back to some of the questions I see here. Do I think that there are further relief measures coming? I guess if this pandemic lasts longer, I wouldn't rule it out. You know, I'm a little troubled about where this money's all going to come from. Of course, we're probably all going to get taxed through the nose in future years, but that's another discussion altogether. So yes, possibly there would be future relief measures coming, but as of this point in time, there's not been any announcements, either they're rumored or concrete announcements with any future relief measures. So I wouldn't bank on it for now. Let's put it that way. Colin, you got a question about, can you apply for this with respect to multiple businesses, 10K for each? Bingo, my friend. I've got multiple businesses, and as long as I've got at least $50,000 of payroll in each of those businesses, there is not a limit yet with respect to sharing this Canada Emergency Business Account loan among related and associated corporations. So as long as you've got a corporation that's got at least $50,000 of payroll, my thought is you would qualify, or your additional businesses would qualify. Okay. And Rebecca, you said that you meant for realtors to commission sales. I'm not exactly sure if maybe I missed something earlier, but I'm having a hard time relating your question. Maybe you can ask that again. Okay, so that's the Canada Emergency Business Account. There are other relief measures that you'll see on my handout there. So your corporate taxes have been deferred as well. So if you are a PREC and you've got a December 31st year end, your taxes would have been due March the 31st. Those taxes are now due August the 31st, 2020. Okay. In terms of GST, if you had to remit GST, either February remittance or March remittance, so if you are December 31st year end with a GST return, also December 31st, your GST would have been due March 31st. That GST remittance is now postponed until June 30th. But I want to make clear that you are still required to file your GST return on time. So if your filing deadline is March 31st, you still need to file by March 31st, but you don't have to pay until June 30th, okay? Other notes with respect to relief, if you were currently under a CRA audit or a CRA review or some sort of enforcement activity from the Canada Revenue Agency, all such activities are currently suspended. So they're not pursuing you right now under CRA audits, reviews, or any other enforcement activities. There are no new enforcement activities either, and existing ones are currently suspended, okay? And then, of course, that also means any other collection activities have also been suspended as well until further notice. Truthfully, though, I think that's the suspension is because all the CRA auditors are working from home and they are not attending to businesses to do any sort of on-site audits. So my gut feeling is that it's really difficult to do an audit when you can't visit a client's place of business. So, you know, other issues make it virtually impossible to conduct an audit, and therefore all these audits and reviews have been postponed. Okay, more questions there. I see somebody who's listed as owner. What about deadlines for GST remittances for sole proprietorships? Oh, that's a very good question. So your remittance would have been due. So if you're a sole proprietorship GST return, you would have had to pay your GST by April the 30th. So your GST remittance is deferred now till June the 30th. And can you send the document? Yeah, Sandra will send the handout to all of you via email afterwards. Do we have any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, everybody's got my email address, my phone number. You're more than welcome to reach out to me afterwards. I'd be happy to help you out. And yes, Jennifer, I am definitely taking on new clients. I'd be happy to help you out either way. So whether it's a quick question, long question, you know, I really at this time, there's not, you know, I'd love to support everybody in any way that I can. So if you've got questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to answer those questions for you. Okay. And if I can't answer that question for you, obviously I'll point you to wherever you might be able to get an answer. And hopefully we'll all be able to support each other through this difficult time and definitely a challenging one to say the least. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Jimmy. You are a very smart man when it comes to numbers, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Putting you on mute now. Okay. Let's carry on. Rebecca, oh, shoot. Yes, Rebecca, how was the poker game? Rebecca, you want to talk about this? Where are you here? Can I unmute you? Rebecca, you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. It was actually Scott McDowell from the Kamloops LePage. He put it out there and reached out to me to ask me to invite everybody from all the Royal LePagers I had on my Facebook network just for him.
Yep.
He raised over $800 for shelter, and it looks like everybody had a really good time. So he's going to do it again. And so if anybody wants to play, I guess it's all on PokerStars, like proper. So if anyone likes to play poker, people had a good time. I didn't even play.
I didn't play either. I totally forgot about yesterday, running around and doing things and
I was just
not.
giving Scott a favor, but it was apparently the chatter has been really in the group because I'm putting the group so I can help him invite people.
Perfect.
And had a great time. Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca.
No problem.
Tony, I have only 4 videos to share. I've received videos from Benny, Cam Holland, Rebecca, and you, Tony. Besides that, I don't really know if I have enough to create a video. So I would love for people to send me some dancing videos. Tony's is awesome. Rebecca's is awesome. Cam's is awesome. Benny's is fantastic. Sure, Colin, come on. We see your silky smoothness on those bus benches. You're a handsome man. Everyone send me your dancing videos if you want. And also don't forget, we sent out the information for the Green Shirt Day, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's this Thursday. It's for the Humble Broncos and Organ Donor Awareness Day. I think it's is this, James, use what you have? Okay, Tony, I'll run with it. You know what? It's tomorrow. Thank you, Asia. April 7th. So please send me your green shirt pics as well. I'd like to do that. There's no requirements for the dancing. I'm going to do one after this as well with my kids, and just making the best of quarantine is all it is, everyone, and making the best of life and what we've been dealt with at this moment. So that's where we figured a little bit of dancing to liven people's spirits up on social media. You know, when you see my dancing, you're definitely going to know who's dancing there because no one dances worse than me. So you'll see it. 3 to 10 seconds, as long as you want it to be. Just have fun with it. If it's going to be a chore, don't do it, but just have fun with it. Daniel asks if we're taking a new listing. Are we required to have the form signed by our sellers beforehand? You're not required to. We can't force you to do anything. We are looking for them, though. Video. Colin just sent me one. Excellent. Okay. Onwards. Remote signing. This is Bill Cadman's section, but we've already done this. I will, Colin. I will. Do we have anyone from the TD Bank here today? I'm going through the participants. Oh, Colin, that's fantastic. Sabby Gill. I will definitely use that, Colin. Where's Sabby? I'm going to... I don't see you on here. Thanks, Tony. Where's Sabby Gill? Raise your hand for me so I can find you. There we go. Lower hand. Well, now where'd you go? Okay, sorry. Redo it. Can you raise your hand again? I'll unmute you first. There we go. Hey, Sabby.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Keeping in line with COVID-19, just wanted to share a quick update about that. The mortgage deferral process continues to be a big task for many lenders. So we have to, I know that upwards of 250,000 requests have already been approved by the 6 banks, and there are many, many more that are coming through, which are being taken care of case by case basis. In regards to the new loan that we're talking about here, the 40K loan, we have some good inputs. TD Bank is right into. What I'm hearing is that we're not able to do those applications in branches, or any of our account managers can't do them. Customers have to apply them online. I have a link that I'm going to share here, which is always being updated in regards to mortgage deferral program and the new business loan that's going on. Definitely visit that link. It has a lot of good information about what TD Bank is doing with our customers in regards to deferring payments, the process, what's required, what's the payment all about, also the business loan itself as to what it is and how to apply and the interest portion or the grant portion. It talks all about that, along with a lot of other good stuff that the bank is always updating in regards to COVID-19. So I highly recommend to save that link, visit that link, and anytime you guys can. It has a lot of good information that's going on it. A little bit on the economic side, the new Canadian housing starts registered a healthy gain of 210,000 pace in February, which was slightly lower than January of 2014K, but still on point as expected with a given market. I'm also hearing some good talks from wealth managers that are indicating that once we get a handle on this COVID-19 situation, there's going to be it's expected that there's going to be a big boom on residential real estate side of it. So as the real estate in our area, Lower Mainland, is very high in demand, and there could be a big increase, once we have a handle on this particular situation here, or shortly after, I would say. Rates-wise, Worm's holding steady at 2.45%, fixed rate around 2.8. Insured mortgages from CMHC are 2.79 to 2.75. They're still holding pretty steady. That's pretty much it. Also hearing that down the road, we are expecting rate decrease a bit more. I know the rates were increased 2 to 3 times in the last, 3 weeks, where they were, as low as 2.39. Now they're around 2.8 hovering. There is expectation that we may see another rate decrease, fixed rate decrease, shortly or down the weeks or so. So stay put. As soon as that comes out, I will put that out there. I'm also gonna probably send out a write-out in regards to the business loan that we're talking about. It's a one-pager that is being shared with the customers. I'll send that out in the email so you guys can read through that as well. But of course, visit the website, whenever you guys can. It's always being updated with latest information. All right, guys, any questions?
Any questions for anyone? Did anyone see Andrew Lauer's? Andrew, are you there? What did you call your challenge again? I know you're there. It was your haircut challenge. Corona cuts. If anybody wants to join me, I was going to do it on Friday, but my hair's not quite long enough yet. But it's getting to that point. I'm gonna mute you here, Sabby. If anyone wants to check out Andrew's Corona cut video, it's pretty fantastic, and I think I might join him on that, and then we'll donate the $20, whatever it costs, to get your hair cut to the food bank, right? If you haven't watched it, it's pretty good. Andrew's very calm with it, and when his wife breaks out the what was it, the zero buzzer and gives you the Friar Tuck haircut, it had me and my wife laughing pretty hard. So we have lots and lots and lots of training going here. New agents, I'm doing new agent training with agents every Friday at 10 a.m. right now. We're meeting, we're chatting. Okay, so Colin will donate $1,000 if Reese does it. Shaved head, half only for 1 week. Well, you've been called out here, Reese. Are you on the call, Reese? I think you are. Come on, Reese. That's $1,000 to donation. You almost have to. Hashtag is Reese. Half his head shaved and has to wear. Well, why not, Reese? Come on, you got to record that and do that. Okay, FYI, Rebecca Phil Soper webinar before his stay about staying positive. All learning services designation 30% off right now. I know which office they joined. I don't see an announcement. It's on Instagram and Facebook. We've been stating them, Monica. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 new ones to Coquitlam this week. Oh, that's true. We could do a hashtag which office they're in. That's fine by me. Sandra and Lisa, if you take note of that. Okay, well let's see if we can't poke at Reese later to do this, and that would be pretty fantastic. But you have to record the whole thing though too, because we want to laugh at your pain and humiliation here. So Tuesday, April 7th, tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. to reverse Mohawk, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. The benefits of social media market designation. This will be by Michael Ka again. He did the Google Drive training last week. He'll be doing the training tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. You will get a nice fancy social media designation from this if you complete it. So you may as well jump on and let's get this done. Sandra, Lisa, they'll send out the email, I think, again, although I've sent it, I know they've sent it a couple times, but we'll get it out to you once more just so you can make sure you receive it. Wednesday, April 8th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Connect, collaborate, and get organized with Google tools you already have. Another Royal LePage webinar that you can join in on. So I won't do one that day so we don't have an overload of training. Please go and sign up for the Royal LePage Learning Services. They're totally worth your time. She's doing fine. She was on a talk this morning with head office, but she is alive and well, Tony. Just different levels of communication, and there's a lot of communication happening right now. Unfortunately, one of my friends turned 40 this Saturday, and he had a Zoom 40th birthday party, and he invited me to it. And I told him I can't do it. I can't do another 40th birthday. I can't do another Zoom meeting. I'm sorry. Sphere is on the way. We will get that at the end here. I did reach out about me pulling people through my Sphere training myself. Scott, have you signed up for the Sphere Zoom webinar? Yes, Tony. Free Zoom is a max of 40 minutes. Okay, April 22nd. That's the guaranteed time you'll have. Once people complete this, for the most part, I would like to drag you through my version of Sphere that I have, but once again, I do need approval to do that and waiting to have that. Virtual training Thursday, April 9th. Webinar, didn't see that. I did sign up for the one on site. The do's and don'ts of marketing during a pandemic. Once again, so Thursday. So you have training every day this week. Tuesday, we got Michael Ka's training on social media designation. Then you have, come on, where's my screen doing here? Wednesday, April 8th, connect, collaborate, and get organized. And then Thursday, you have the do's and don'ts of marketing during a pandemic with Andrew Giselle Holmes. Join Andrew to talk about what you should and shouldn't do with your marketing and your marketing spend while physically distancing. Bring your tactical questions. This looks like an interesting one. I'll probably join up for this one as well. Get ready for LP Sphere. You will get 3 self-directed PDP credits for doing this. Marie and Kim did this and were kind enough to share this information with us. So we've, I know Sandra shares everything, but it's always good to hear back from the other agents and Lisa. So you once again get 3 self-directed credits for doing the introduction to Sphere training. So please make sure you jump on this. Top 10. Number 1, in Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Human, followed by Ali, Monet, Moez, Ella, Lorna, Joe, Satpul, Dan, and Rob. Top 5 teams, Denani, Permac, the Lamb Real Estate Group, Today Team, and Jeff Golding. And top 10 in Surrey. I'm looking for a venue for a 12-group house party. Ooh. Tony, I can give you my login. Let's talk later. What's mine is yours. So message me later, Tony, and we can let's make the most of it. May as well use this. Top 10 for March. I always get your name wrong at first here. How do I properly say this? Where are you here? Paula, thank you. I don't want to butcher it. Paula, Keith, Dean, Anita, Biba, Dennis, Keith, Julie, Anthony, Harpreet. Excellent work. Green Shirt Days we talked about. And RLP stay safe. I've got a couple videos. Come on, get them to me by Which room is? Well, that's not social distancing, Tony. Come on, send me some videos. You dancing. I've got one in the past few minutes from Colin and Andrew. It's just supposed to be something you're doing for fun while you're self-quarantining, self-isolation. Okay, everyone? Stay safe, have fun. I just had someone show up my house for some ear savers, going to Peace Arch Hospital. So everyone take care of yourself, and let's talk soon. Remember, message me if you have anything, need anything, want to chat, want to cry, want to get mad at me about something. I'm here for you, whatever you need. What do you want the dancing video by? I wanted it by last Saturday. Yeah, come on, Chris, jump on this. That should be your song. Jump on it, the Will Smith one. And get it to me ASAP. Come on, let's say by 5 p.m. today, and I'll get it done right away. How many dance videos do you have recorded? How many dance videos have you received? About 4 or 5 as of now, probably 6. But come on, the more I have to work with, the better it is. So get those into me. Plus, Green Shirt Day is tomorrow. Send in your photos. I also want to make something about that. I believe the Humboldt Broncos thing is very important. Okay, everybody. Take care. Talk to you later.